Welcome to the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast. We are here to podcast about anything and everything Star Wars with you. Please visit our website where you can play current and past episodes. That's https://RABR KyleJohansson.us. That's RABR.KyleJohansson.us. On the left-hand side is a navigation menu. You can use this to learn how to load the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast on your Android or Apple phone and tablet. And we have direct links to our podcast on Apple and Google Podcasts. Please participate by connecting to our social media, answering questions of the week, or submitting feedback directly from the site. Again, all of these are available at the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room website at RABR.KyleJohansson.us. And now, it's time to talk Star Wars. I am Kyle Johansson, and this is Andrew Scott Sutton. Say hello.
Hello? Anybody? Oh, yeah. Scott's not here again. This time he's on vacation. I think he's getting used to not doing this podcast. He's realized that, he doesn't have to do it. I can do it by myself. I mean, it's kind of nice to have him do it with us because there's a little interaction there. I like more than just my opinion, but that's great. And we could also use your feedback. So, bring that on. We need all the feedback we can get. We've got questions of the week, and you can do predictions. You can tell us we're lying and whatever you want to do. Anyway, so today we're reviewing Star Wars Andor, Episode 7, The Announcement. So, boys and girls, please take your seats in the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room.
Spoiler alert. Danger. You are about to be spoiled. This is your spoiler alert. We're about to talk candidly and explicitly about some TV shows or movies. If you have not watched them, please fast forward to the appropriate section. You will not be warned again.
Yeah, so there is no appropriate section. So today, everything we talk about in the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room is classified. Yeah, so, that just means don't share it with anybody that hasn't watched Episode 7. So today, like I said, Episode 7, the announcement, we're going to go through that here very quickly. I did want to remind you guys again that there are many ways for you to provide us feedback. And we are looking forward to every piece of feedback you can ever provide us. We don't care if you don't know what we're talking about. Just send us some feedback, okay? So on the left-hand side of the website, there are several links. One of them says question of the week. You can go there, fill out the question of the week. When you're in there filling out the your response, there's a thing at the bottom of the question below the vote button. Scroll down a little bit. There's a comment section. You can add comments. You can tell us why you said or selected the answer you selected, or you can say, what you thought about this particular question or anything. Hey, this question's stupid, whatever. Put it there, send it to us. We'll talk about it on the next episode. All right, so the other way on the left-hand side again is there's a feedback button. When you get in there, it's pretty simple too. There'll be two questions that ask you. First one is, what do you want to be called? What do you want us to call you by? And the second thing is what your feedback is. And this is anything, what you think about this, what's your predictions? What's your wild ass theory? Um, you know, did we spell something wrong? Did we pronounce somebody's name wrong? Did we reference something that's not true? Please send it to us. Anybody, everybody. And then of course we also do these in video format, and those are up on YouTube. So if you type in https video.rabr.kylejohansson.us, that'll take you directly to our YouTube channel. You can look at our videos, we can watch them, do whatever you got to do there. And as we all know, underneath the video in the YouTube page, there's a comment section. Please comment there. We'll review those comments and talk about them on the podcast. So please do all that. Don't forget, I'm going to talk about this again, so get bored, all right? Oh, yeah, and also we have a web email address, feedback@kylejohansson.us. All right, so let's get started here. So we start out the episode where Cyril is eating breakfast again. He's cereal would be the thing, and he's dressing for an interview he's got with the Bureau of Standards. His mother is questioning his decision on what he's wearing. She's nitpicking him again, and in particular, she's talking about the collar being kind of high. He's like, "Oh, you altered it, made it higher, and all that stuff." And I think if you remember, he's got the high collar when he's doing his military work. He likes the collar, and he misses, I think, probably being doing the job he was doing. So he has his suit altered so he can have that collar there because it feels kind of cool to him. And she reminds him that Uncle Harlow pulled many favors for him to get this interview, and that we should respect him and all that stuff. And while she's droning on, suddenly on the news, HoloNet's what they call it, we hear that there's been a terror attack and robbery at the Imperial Armory on Aldhani with multiple fatalities. The broadcaster announces the Galactic Empire has imposed a blockade and launched an investigation. And we hear Edie remark that those conspirators will regret what they've done, because she knows they're going to get in trouble. And I think we kind of get the idea about her political views. She's kind of down with the Empire. She likes what they've done. So, meanwhile, we return to the ISB, where the round table of white shirted people are, and Colonel Wolf Yaren is addressing the other senior ISB officials, vowing the Empire will retaliate swiftly against the rebellion attack. He asks them to consider how tight they want to close their fists. And he talks about how they recruit the strongest and best people, so that in times like these, they have the best people for the job. He also mentions that they are imposing a tribute tax 5 times the amount of the stolen credits from Aldhani on any sector harboring partisan activity, and he wants to make it clear that they want to make it clear that anyone who steals from the Empire will pay. He also adds that any local customs, festivals, or traditions used as cover for rebels' activities will trigger permanent revocation of Imperial tolerance, meaning they won't tolerate things anymore. They're just gonna crack the whip, and you don't have a choice. Yeah, so that's some tough rules there. And Yarlin assures the officers that he has spoken with Emperor Palpatine, and the Emperor has granted ISB access to the Imperial Army and Imperial Navy resources. He announces that the Emperor will be convening an emergency session of the Imperial Senate to propose legislative packages and bills amending that will give the ISB unlimited powers of surveillance, search, and seizure. Unlimited. So, I mean, we're talking major. Yeah, they can do whatever they want. Uh, Go wherever they want, do whatever they need. That's just not. Yeah, I don't like that at all. That's definitely military rule there. And he announces they will be invoking Public Order Resentencing Directive, or PORD, later today. Any criminal act with an indirect effect on the Empire be classified as a Class 1 offense. All prisoners will be sentenced and evaluated on all outstanding fines and levies and are to be paid in full. And we see our lovely Deidre Miro listening and taking all this in. She's thinking, this is kind of strict and whatever, but she's also thinking, unlimited access for search. I'm looking for something. And she walks in out of the meeting and walks in on an attendant who is sleeping later and speaks with him, and she expresses some concerns. And talks to her attendant, and she thinks that they're playing into the rebels' hands. That they're doing exactly what the rebels want them to do, not enforcing anything. Because the rebels think that this will wake people up and make them realize that Empire is worse than they thought. And she thinks that the incident it was classified as a robbery, but it's actually an announcement. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so they're announcing themselves. They're that was their coming out ceremony. Ta-da! Look at me, rebel. Here we are. Yay! So instead of cannons with blue and pink colors or cake that's pink in the middle, it's boom. We took your money. Rebels. Yeah. So we return back to Coruscant, and Luthen is listening to his transmitter about news about the credits that were stolen on Aldhani, the heist, and we hear that all of the military personnel have been replaced and are being interrogated by the ISB. The broadcast also confirms that the tracking devices on the escaped craft were disabled before reaching hyperspace. In addition, 134 Aldhani residents have been taken into custody under suspicion for abetting the terrorists. And Luthen's assistant tells him that Mon Mothma has come to visit and to wipe the smile off his face. And so he comes out from the back room, and this business that he's in is officially called Galactic Antiquities and Objects of Interest. Mothma apologizes for her abrupt visit, but she said she was on her way and she wanted to drop off this present that she was going to give her husband. He doesn't really like it. Perrin doesn't really like it, so she wants to possibly look at the other one that Luthen suggested, the jagged sword-looking thing, and they go inside, and that's when they start to talk. The driver stands outside, so he can't really hear, but they are, putting on their act. They got the smiles and the laughs and the, so it looks like they're being cordial and whatever. But Mothma is asking Luthen if he was responsible for the heist, and Luthen doesn't really give her an answer, but he basically says that um, that she knows the answer already, and revolutions are expensive, and they need as many funds as possible. And then they move to the matter of Mothma's family funds, which she's having trouble assessing, and she promises that she'll get that taken care of. That she's working on it. The meeting is tonight, um, and he wants her to get back to her once the meeting's over. Um, and she keeps pressing Luthen on questions about the heist, and he reminds her uh, that he explained the risks of new faces, but she persisted. Uh, and she asks him if he realizes the gravity of what he's done, and she tells him he tells him that she's planning to build a network, but Luthen reminds her that turning back will be impossible. He counters that she knew the risks and described the network as a weapon. Uh, and they've waited long enough. Mothma is concerned of the repercussions of the heist, but Luthen explains that that is his plan, was to get the Emperor to overreact. Dun dun dun. He's making his announcement, um, and he kind of mentions that the Aldani incident has invigorated their struggle, and replies that people will suffer. Mothma replies that people will suffer, and Luthen says that's the plan, and adds that there will be no rules going forward. Returning to business, Luthen tells Mothma that the rebellion will need every credit that they can get their hands on, and to let her know how the meeting goes. And that's when Mothma says she won't be purchasing the piece this morning, and he laughs cordially and tells her that more pieces will be coming soon. As Kayla, the assistant in the shop, listens um, and watches, they both watch her, I guess, limousine leave. She says, "I hope she's worth it." And Luthen says that they will see, and adds that they can't hide anymore. They need to come out, and basically, the announcement. They're out in the open. And now we go back to Cyril, and he is during his interview, he's getting a tour of the Bureau of Standards. Uh, his supervisor talks about the work, and including weights and gauges and redundancies and verification. And the supervisor questions Carnes or Cyril about his prior employment on Morlanda One. Um, and Cyril explains that that a rebel murderer is running free due to corruption and laxity in the corporate authority. Um, Cyril believes that he was punished for trying to uphold the law and do his job of upholding public safety. He mentions that there was two colleagues that were murdered, and he believes in the law, and whoever did that should be punished. And that he is going to work to get his name and record expunged. Um, and the supervisor asks if he needs any help, and there is a job opening immediately in fuel and purity. And that's when they motion to the actual desk he's going to be at. And during these scenes when they're talking, it's you see a huge cube farm. I mean, it's the cube farm from hell. This building here, Bureau of Standards. That's all they do is cubes, I guess. But they've got a lot of people that are working for them. Elsewhere, a hooded Kayla walks past Imperial security in the foyer of a public walkway. This is a big scene where we see her walking through the city, avoiding everybody and everything like that. And she meets up in a secluded area with she's walking through, and then we switch to Deidre Miro, our ISB female focused that we're on, and she goes to the data vault and requests access for 2 years worth of data from an unkept attendant, Felzonis. This is the guy who his tunic is loose, and he was asleep, and he's unkept and stuff, and she makes sure he knows that she knows what was going on, and she asks for a survey pool of the facilities and then their resources and uh, records of all missing avionics, comms, navigation, and targeting equipment. And when he asks what star systems does she want it from, she says all of them, and she asks for the report to be kept confidential, with a copy sent exclusively to her office. And Miro asks Filzonis to be discreet. And we go back to Aldani, and we see Cintas mounting a speeder bike as she watches an Imperial Star Destroyer fly over the Sacred Valley. And she's going down this steep hill. It looks like almost like more of the coal looking stuff. So she's zooming through and skittering around a little bit on there. Looks kind of fun. And back on Coruscant, Kella meets up with Val in a discreet area in the city, and she asks about the whereabouts of Andor and says that she shouldn't even be here. Val replies that neither of them should be here and reassures her that the money is safe. Kella praises Val for hiding the money securely and their success in recruiting the recruits. And Val says that Avril Skeen will be missed, but we knew he was kind of rogue anyway. She asks about Cintas, and Kel says that she is doing what she's told. Soldiers follow orders, right? And warns her about the dangers of sending and receiving messages. She turns to the matter of Clem, whose real identity she had reveals is Cassian Andor, and regards him as at a loose end. And Kella tasks Cinta with killing Andor to conceal the knowledge of Andor. Before leaving, she promises to send what she has on Andor. I think it should say Val instead of Cintas. And then we switch to a scene back on Ferrix. Hooded Andor returns to his family home on Ferrix and is greeted by his adoptive mother Marva and B2EMO. And I thought it was funny that you noticed he touched the droid, letting him know that he was glad to see him too, and all that stuff. And Marva warns Andor that he can't stay. He just can't stay. The Empire has expelled the Preox Morlin and has taken over Ferrix. She reiterates that he shouldn't be there and reveals that Tim Carlo is the one who betrayed him. And he's like, what? Marva reveals that Tim was killed by the Corpos and that Bix tried to warn Andor but was captured as well. Tim was killed in the process, was trying to stop her from going to see Andor. Uh, Marva tells Andor that the Empire is here to stay, and Andor invites his mother and B2EMO to flee with him, claiming that he has won enough credits to leave. Andor wants them to leave tonight for a warmer world as the kettle hisses from the tea that she started. Andor talks about his plans of escaping off-world with his family and decides to delay their plans to the following day because Merva is tired and he also wants to speak to Bix more than last time. And then we switch over to Mothma at her party, and it's a pretty big party, and they've got a pretty, foo-foo spread and all this crap. There's all kinds of ISB officers that she has to, walk around and avoid. And she meets with a Chandalarian man named Tay Colma, who is an old friend and a banker. Apparently, they went to school together. Tay talks about Mothma's career and says that he cannot imagine living on Coruscant. Everything is too fancy, and we see Perrin, her husband, talking with some ladies nearby, and Mon Mothma is about to talk about something confidential with Tay when they are joined by her daughter Lita, who Mothma introduces Tay to, and she tells Tay that this is an old family friend who runs the Bank of Colma and is close to her sisters. Which I think that's where Mon Mothma is from Chandalarian. Not wanting to be in her mother's shadow, Lita asks permission to be excused. And then Mon Mothma leads Tay to a secluded area and tells Tay that she needs his help for a political plan. Tay is cautious about getting involved in anything political despite his views on the Empire. He warns that some of his colleagues have taken their political allegiances too far. To avoid arousing suspicion, Mothma keeps encouraging Tay to smile and drink up on his drinks and pretend like they're being reminiscing. And she explains that she's been putting up a front as a senator who is unpopular causes, advocate for separatist do-gooders and imperial overreach. She says it's all an act. He replies that he does not know what she's talking about, and she explains that her persona is not real, and that the Grand Visor has infiltrated the Separatist Coalition meetings, and she is aware that her driver is an ISB plant who monitors her humanitarian activities. Mothma wants the Empire to think that she is an irritation in order to conceal her true purpose, which is raising money. Mothma tells Tay that seeks Tay's help in accessing her family account for establishing a Chandalarian Charity Outreach Foundation. Tay will serve as chairman of the foundation, and she can't access these funds through normal avenues. And then Tay responds that she hasn't really answered his question. And she tells Tay that in case you don't agree with my political views, and basically she's kind of saying that our views are kind of aligned. And we see her husband Perrin approach, and she warns Tay that Perrin is unaware of anything, and he's not to be trusted. And Perrin reminds Mothma of upcoming reunion that they're having for school reunion, and and he says that there's a few people that she needs to talk to, smooth a little bit more. Um, and Mothma tells Tay that they will continue this conversation later. So we go back to Ferrix with uh, Andor. Um, and he's in crawling over a wall to get into the work area of Bix. Um, and he calls her on an intercom that's outside of one of the secure doors, and they do some talking about meeting her father, and well, the first time when he climbed over the wall, um, and Bix tells him he should not be here; it's not safe. Um, and Bix briefly mentions the death of Tim and blames Andor for putting the entire town at risk by killing two corpos and returning home to hide. Andor tries to blame Tim, but Bix points out that Andor cheats, lies, and steals, and Andor accepts that he has to leave. Bix says that she does not know the identifier. It does not know the identity of the buyer, but encountered the man through Pack, which is another person. I think we met him. We saw him on one of the previous episodes. Yeah. Don Ferrix operated the Sky Guard in town, so he works with her, not at the actual same thing, but they have a working relationship. Um, she explains that they communicate via comlink. When Andor asks Bix how Luthen knows so much about him, Colleen says that she did not share information about Andor. And that Luthen has held up his side of the deal, that he needs to forget, she needs to forget about him now. And he gives Bix 12,000 credits that he owes for all his debts to Zanwan, Nurichu, Brazo, and Dima. And he, she warns him to be careful, and he climbs back over the wall. While walking through the streets, Andor hides around the corner to avoid some stormtroopers that are marching, doing their clunk, clunk, clunk marching routine. And he flashes back to his father, Clem, watching clone troopers parading. And, during the parade, a lot of the locals are throwing rocks at people. And the supervisor finally tells them to halt, and they're going to arrest citizens for throwing rocks. And of course, Clem is there trying to prevent people from throwing rocks and breaking up, any kind of fights or whatever. And he is caught in the middle, and is arrested. And we see later on he was hung not long after that for whatever crimes he did, that he didn't do. And back in the home, with Marva, Andor greets B2 and Marva, and she tells her son that she is not leaving. She has she's getting too old for this, basically. Um, she says the Empire's everywhere, and there's no point of running from them. Um, and Andor says he's gonna find a place that has no Imperial presence. Um, and she says that, there is no refuge. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna hold out. I'm willing to wait it out, and I I'm a rebel. I need to rebel. Um, and there's a little mention there again about uh, Andor's adopted father Clem being hung in front of the troopers. Uh, she mentions the attack on the Imperial garrison and tells Andor that she was encouraged by the attack, uh, and she wants to remain on Ferrix to continue her own rebel fight. Uh, and Andor doesn't really tell her that he was part of that heist. Um, he dismisses the robbery, but believes Merva that people are standing up. Andor thinks that fighting against the Empire is futile, but Merva thinks that running away is um, not the best way of fighting them. She accepts that her son has a different path uh, due to his traumatic childhood. She counsels him on running away and finding peace, but Andor continues to say that he's leaving. Um, and she replies that she has nothing for love but for Andor, and expresses that hopefully their paths will cross again. And the droid B2MEO tries to speak, but Marver shushes him down. Um, and Andor walks out, and she tells him on his way out to stop looking for his sister because she believes there were no survivors on Kenari, and she will say what happened is not his responsibility because he was a child. So he thinks he's trying to find her because you know he's the reason that she's missing and doing things she doesn't want to do. And now we return back to Coruscant at the ISB office, and we hear an officer, Lonnie June, proposing several theories about his sector. Um, and the major orders a full audit of all hyperspace routes to Ordmanel, and Lieutenant Supervisor Belvin lodges a complaint against Supervisor Miro for overreaching into her sector. And that's when the major, Paractagas, asks Miro to explain. And Miro counters that Blevin seems to be more interested in her conduct than advancing Imperial security, and shifts the spotlight back onto Blevin. Partagas questions Blevin about the recovery of an Imperial NS9 Starpath unit in Ferrix, and reminds him that Miro sought access to the crime reports. Blevin claims that Miro's actions violate the chain of command, and Deidre contests on his account, pointing out that he advised her to reinforce her suspicions with data and to be careful of her work going forward. Blevin counters that Deidre found a way to access the sector's data without filing a request. Miro acknowledges obtaining the data using the Imperial Emergency Act that was just passed based on the Aldani heist. Those are probably the laws and restrictions that Palpatine was supposed to vote into the Congress. And we see Amiral arguing again. The rebellion ignores the artificial sector boundaries which Partagaz created. Partagaz is defensive about his sector boundaries, and Miro asks Miro to explain. And Deidre argues that there is a focus on organized rebel efforts to obtain restricted Imperial military components across all sectors. When Partagaz asks for evidence to her claim, Miro says that unfiltered crime reports support a link between their theft of the most secret equipment and its distribution to rebel groups across the galaxy. The Major questions her methods, and Deidre responds that Belvin is aware she has documented file ready to go that accuses Belvin of being more concerned with self-preservation than the Empire. Belvin accuses Miro of ignoring the rules, and Partagaz, the Major, is impressed with Miro's endeavor and says that he will have to think about it. He reassigns the Milani sector and Ferrix to Miro and orders Grandy Jung to accelerate their efforts. In private, Partagaz compliments Miro for playing the game well, but warns her to watch her back. Dun, dun, dun. She's in trouble. And back on, we go back to Andor, and he's we see a girl in a bed, and we hear like a shower in the background, and she wakes up and says, and she calls him Keef. Keef, are you there, Keef? Keef? And he's in the shower. Ooh. But unfortunately, ladies, he's wearing pants. But we can see his chest, and that's nothing to slouch about. And he's stealing some credits from some hidden things she's got in the room. Though they're on a world called Naomos. We see the little heading at when the beach scene comes up on the screen. And this woman's name is Wendy. She asks him to buy more pizzos in Revenog. And we see Andor walking to the store, and he is going through a crowd, and someone is acting suspicious, and they begin to flee as the stormtroopers or shore troopers follow, and he gets caught up in the middle and appears to be running with them, and gets captured by a trooper, and the trooper does not believe that he is not part of the group, and he orders a KX security droid to help him for backup. The droid has finished apprehending the other suspects, and Andor attempts to reason with the droid because the shore trooper has told the droid to hang on to him, and the KX droid is taking that literally, and he grabs Andor by the neck and says hang, and raises him up above his head height, and it says hang, and Andor is pleading with the droid and the shore trooper to tell the droid that he was supposed to watch him, not hang him. And then we later see Andor is going before a judge as Keith Gigero. He faces charges of disruption, anti-imperial speech, and fleeing a scene of an anti-imperial activity and damaging imperial property. Andor protests to the judge, saying that he didn't do it, and she counsels him to avoid resisting a judge charge. The judge sentenced him to 6 years in prison, citing new Imperial guidelines. Despite his protest, Andor is hauled off by two shore troopers. And then we see on Coruscant, Cyril is browsing through the records with countless other employees in his cube farm as we watch the credits roll. Credits roll. Yeah, there we go. All right, everybody. So how was that? That was a pretty good show, don't you think? Let me run this real quick while I take a drink or two.
And now, a word from our sponsors. Does your bald head take a beating from shaving, the sun, and all of the things Mother Nature throws your way? Do ladies look at your dry, sunburnt head and cringe? Well, guys, there's a new product out there in the head care market that promises to rock your head. I mean dome. Looks soft, clean, and touchable, and it's trending #1 through social media and on YouTube. Introducing Dome Armor. It conditions with moisturizers like coconut oil and shea butter, protects with sunscreen up to SPF 45, and enhances your already sexy dome into an irresistible hands-on experience. Keep your dome safe and protected. Get Dome Armor, now available in fresh bacon scent. Sure to get the ladies to come running in fine stores like Walmart and Lowe's. Oh, and for those still struggling with minor hair loss, try Grow Gain. This product will refresh, revitalize, and regrow hair on your dome.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking about growing hair on my dome. Need some of that Grow Gain. Anyway, so let me this one. Feedback at KyleJohansson.us. That's feedback, KyleJohansen.us. Sorry. So yeah, there was the email address I mentioned at the top of the show. So we want your feedback. We want to hear everything you have to say about this episode. You know, how I went through it, how I got things out of order every once in a while, whatever you want to say. Or if you want to tell Scott that he needs to be on the show more often, that's fine too. Go ahead and do that. So I wanted to remind you that we have on the left-hand side of the website over there, we have ways for you to give us feedback besides the email address. You can click on feedback, of course, and it'll give you a form to fill out your feedback and send it to us. We have questions of the week, which we're going to get into this week's question here shortly. You can go through and make your vote heard on the question of the week. And then there is a comment section down below that you can explain your answer or say much more about the topic. And then, of course, we're on YouTube, and there's a comment section under each video that we have uploaded, so you can comment on the episode, and we will share all of those on the podcast because we need your feedback to make this more exciting. It's more of an interaction thing. We can get to know you better and understand what you guys want to talk about. All right, so I talked about question of the week, and today's question of the week, or this episode's question of the week, is about the future. And most of these questions kind of are, the episode brings up things that we think might happen in the future. And this one is, does Val break Cassian out of prison to kill him? Because, we saw during the episode that Luthen's assistant, Kelva, asked Val to find Andor and eliminate him because he's a loose end. So today's question is about that. And there's several answers you can choose. And of course, if you have comments to expand on the question, go ahead and fill those out at the bottom of the survey. Again, all those are on our website on the left-hand side. Question of the week. We've got feedback, and you can go to the listen section there, and there's a listing for all of the web pages that have, or all of the um, websites that host our audio version. And then there's a link at the very bottom for YouTube, and you can click on that and see that go directly to our YouTube channel. Or type in your browser, type in videos.rabr.kylesjohansson.us and go directly to our page on YouTube. So, please take care of the question of the week, and that should wrap up this episode.
Thank you for listening to the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast. Please visit our website where you can play current and past episodes. That's https://RABR KyleJohansson.us. That's RABR dot KyleJohansson.us. On the left-hand side is a navigation menu. You can use this to learn how to load the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast on your Android or Apple phone and tablet. And we have direct links to our podcast on Apple and Google Podcasts. Please participate by connecting to our social media, answering questions of the week, or submitting feedback directly from the site. Again, all of these are available at the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room website at rabr.kyljohansson.us. This podcast in no way is approved, sponsored, or owned by Lucasfilms Ltd., Disney, Disney Plus, or any of its subsidiaries. All opinions are solely owned by Kyle and or Scott, and in no way express the views or opinions of their past or present employers. Views and opinions are not supported or restricted by Lucasfilms Ltd., Disney, Disney Plus, or any of its subsidiaries. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this podcast and its affiliate sites without consent of Super Duper Podcast Network and its host is prohibited. I am Kyle Johansson, and this is Andrew Scott Sutton. Say goodbye now.
Goodbye. Again, Scott's not here today because he's taking vacation time with his family, which is well deserved after all those extra hours he was working. I hope that when he gets back from his vacation, he doesn't have to go back into all those extra hours again. But he might. He likes to work. Thank you for listening. Bye.